All right, we're going to go ahead and start this mini lesson today. And we're going to talk today about pacing, okay? Pacing. Pacing is a writer's way of manipulating time and details within the text to keep the reader interested in the story, okay? When we watch something on a scene on television, okay, it's happening in real time. But when we read a scene on paper, there are lots of ways the writer can work with those words in order to change the way that time passes. This is what pacing is, okay? Pacing is how fast or how slow the action moves within a scene or a story, okay? And as a writer, you can play with pacing. In fact, you can do what we're going to call here explode a moment to create drama, something dramatic, or even to shrink other moments so that the story doesn't drag on. Okay. We have talked about this last year, exploding a moment. So this is really kind of a review that we're doing. But I wanted us to to try this again after a year to see how well we remember how to do this. Okay. How do we explode a moment, or how do we work with pacing? Okay. There's a couple of things we can do. Take a look down here. We can give a 360-degree or kind of slow motion view of the scene. So again, we are thinking of ourselves as writers almost as if we're holding a camera, okay? And we have to write to create what that scene looks like. And we need to look all around and slow things down if we want to make that moment really explode. Okay. Same with the second one, providing a frame by frame picture of the scene. So we're not just seeing the action, we're also seeing what the characters see, okay, as if it was being filmed. You have to work on zooming in on details to explode a moment, okay? That means even the littlest things, the sensory imagery of what's happening in that moment is important. Okay. We can also slow down time in an exploded moment by including the thoughts and feelings. This is what I call the internal, okay, kind of action. What's happening on the inside of the character's head or of that moment. Okay. This is what we're aiming to do, slowing down time when we explode a moment so that the reader can really experience and visualize the specific event. All right. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to give you an example, okay, of a moment that has been exploded in professional writing. This is a mentor text, I would call this, okay, and it's from a book called Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech, okay. What I'd like you to do is pause this video and take turns or have somebody volunteer to read aloud, okay, this section right here. You'll notice that there are some things in different colors. I'll come back to that later, but for a moment, just pause the video and read this out loud together. Okay, are you done? All right, great. So what we saw, okay, in this exploded moment were a couple of things, okay? In the kind of the black text is really just the action of what's happening in the scene. In the red text, you'll see all of the sensory details and imagery. This is where we see really, or also even smell or hear. This is where we get all that good description, okay, of what's happening in this moment. And then we also, in the blue, this is what we call kind of that internal action, also known as a thought shot. That should maybe trip some of your memories. A thought shot. This is what's happening inside. So it's not related to the outside, the exterior action, but it is internal. Okay, let me move this slide. All right. What I want us to think about now is trying this for ourselves. Okay, and we're going to do this by looking back in our daily writing in our notebooks. Okay, and finding just one sentence, a moment that you've written about this week, could be this week or even last week. Oh yeah, today's Monday. So I want you to just find a sentence, anything at all, okay? It just has to have some action in it. So something like, he walked through the door, or I spilled milk all over my sister's head. We're taking one sentence and then we're going to try to make it explode by zooming in and slowing down the pacing, okay? You'll notice here that I've got the color-coded description. So the action is in black, okay? The snapshot, the actual sensory details, the description, okay, is in red, and the thought shot, the internal stuff, is in blue, okay? So whenever I show you this example that I wrote, you'll know which of these is which, okay? So let's take a look at my example, okay? I used this, I wrote this last year. The sentence that I chose from my notebook was, this sentence right here. When I was young in the mountains, we'd plant our old, there's a typo there, but we'd plant our old Christmas tree in the yard every year. So the action here is the planting of the Christmas tree. So even though I wrote that one sentence and it kind of explains everything, I want to make this moment of planting the Christmas tree extremely dramatic. I want to really slow down time so that the reader can understand why this is significant. So the first thing that I've done here that I want you to do for yourself is to just write out the action in a slower way. Okay, so think about what's happening before the action and even after the action. So here I have my dad dragging the tree through the snow in order to go and plant it. Okay, so that's happening first. Okay, and I'm describing that he takes steps, leaving a trail behind. He stops, there's a hole, he pushes the tree into the hole. We support the tree, right, until it's standing up. So this is all the steps that it takes to plant something. And I've really slowed it down. Okay, that's what I want you to do next. So take a couple of minutes here, pick a sentence from your notebook and slow the pacing down, zoom in on it. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and you can restart it when you're done. Okay, so now that you've done the action, the next thing I want you to do is to go back to what you've written and add some sensory snapshots. This is the description, the details, okay? What are you seeing? What are you hearing, okay? If this was a camera, what could we pick up on that needs to be added, okay? Think back to the way that Sharon Creech added those great descriptions of the bus and the gashes in the tire, okay? So I want you now to go back in a different color. It's okay if it's not red, but just a different color, and do your best to add in some of these snapshot details. You'll see here that I worked on making sure that I'm covering smell, that sense, a color here. I have size. I'm talking about how things feel. So take a minute, all right? Another 3 to 4 minutes, set the timer. Go ahead and add some sensory snapshots. Pause this video and come back when you're done. Okay, if you're done, you're back. All right, we have one more thing to do, and that is to add the thought shot. Here, I want you to slow down the moment by giving us an insight into what's happening internally, whether that's with the character or even just the moment itself, okay? Mine is in the first person, so I'm able to go inside my head and talk about what I'm thinking about the moment that we planted the Christmas tree. And this really kind of gives us the significance of why this is important. Why would I even want to slow this moment down? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because it makes me remember that Christmas happens year round. That's an important holiday in my family, et cetera, et cetera. So take a minute, use a different color, and try to add thought and feeling somewhere into your explosive moment. It doesn't have to be at the end like I have it. It could be at the beginning or even the middle. You saw how Sharon Creech in her example used, quite a few places where she added one. So set your timer one more time, if you don't mind. Add a thought shot in a different color. And once you're finished, okay, if there's time here at the end of the class, I want you to exchange, pair up, share with one another, share what you've come up with just in partners or even groups of 3, okay? So you can go ahead and pause this. Actually, you don't need to pause. We can just finish it here. Okay. And make sure that you get your article of the week too before you leave. All right. So finish up your thought shots in your exploded moments in your notebooks and share with a classmate. All right, guys. Great job.